This is 2SO, the Southampton station of Susu TV Broadcasting Company calling. 2SO calling. This is our first transmission, and I can assure you that we are not going to stop broadcasting. Broadcasting has come to stay. We will have news bulletins at 6 o'clock and 9 o'clock daily, the first of which I will read tonight, and tomorrow listeners will be informed of the results of our 1922 general election. I've been your director of programs, Lucas Wilson, and this is Susu TV on 2SO. The Atlantic, conquered from the skies. Captain Charles Lindbergh landed today in France. He was the first man ever to fly from New York to Paris, and as the wheels of his monoplane touched down, the dream that the North American and European continents should be linked in non-stop airplane flight was realized. He is the first man to take claim of the Orteig Prize. When Lindbergh climbed into his plane, the spirit of St. Louis at Roosevelt Field yesterday morning, he said, "I'll be in Paris tomorrow," and he was. Edward VIII, the 38th King of England, abdicated today for the love of an American woman. He informed a stunned Parliament that he preferred to abandon his crown rather than give up Mrs. Wallis Warfield Simpson, twice divorced American who he intends to marry. His formal message of abdication, with its plea for understanding, was unofficially accepted by the House of Commons through statements of party leaders. Prime Minister Stanley Baldwin, who submitted the document to Commons this evening, introduced a bill of abdication, which undoubtedly will be passed by the Commons and Lords by tomorrow night. The King will sign it, and the Duke of York, his brother, will become King. Albert I in all likelihood, and his daughter Princess Elizabeth, the heir to the throne. In the events that have shocked the world, Germany has invaded Poland. The war in Europe has begun. Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain has resigned from his post with immediate effect. Winston Churchill will take his place. France has fallen. Britain now stands alone against the tyranny of fascism. The Battle of Britain has been won, the first victory for the Allied powers in this war. Yesterday, on the 7th of December 1941, Japan launched a surprise attack on the Hawaiian naval base of Pearl Harbor. America has entered the war. The Red Army has managed to halt the German advance in Eastern Europe at the Battle of Stalingrad. Today, 6th of June 1944, Allied armies have initiated an unprecedented invasion of mainland Europe at Normandy. Allied forces have entered Berlin. The German leadership has unconditionally surrendered. The war in Europe is won. Susu TV will resume normal broadcast hours shortly.
Hello and welcome to the news. The time is 5 o'clock. Merry Christmas. Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II has broadcast her annual speech on television for the first time today. Her Majesty read her speech from the long library at her residence at Sandringham House in Norfolk. The Queen noted the developments in technology that have allowed her message to be broadcast to all her subjects. This speech, which is the 25th annual Christmas address recorded by the royal family, is estimated to have been heard and watched by 8 million people across Britain and the Commonwealth. Good evening. A new speed limit of 70 miles per hour has been introduced onto Britain's motorways following several attempts by drivers to achieve a new speed record. Following a number of car collisions during this autumn and early winter, the government has decided to implement a temporary maximum speed limit to prevent further collisions during the winter. Some in Parliament, however, have suggested that this speed limit might be made permanent, causing much controversy among members of the public.
Hey, go easy on the makeup. I look good enough as it is. Hey Jude, here's a lawsuit. The decade got off to a shaky start with the sensational British force and the Beatles splitting up. John Lennon filed a lawsuit in the later stages of 1970 against Paul, George and Ringo, the band's other 3 members, for the dissolution of the band's contract. One thing's for sure, sadly, they might never come together again.
Experts predicted this could be the hottest summer on all record, with highs of up to 36 degrees in the south of England, as well as drought across the whole country. Indeed, it turned out to be exactly this, with water restrictions put in place throughout the country and warnings to stay indoors issued by the government. Mostly, this was not heeded to, of course. For a country often soaked in rain, this summer was spent basking in the sun at the seaside.
And I can tell you now that's not the only hot image stuck in my mind. We'll see you in a moment after this commercial break.
Hello, I'm Angela Burton, and this is CCTV News. The Berlin Wall has begun to fall after 3 decades of it dividing the city. At midnight, East Germany's communist regime gave permission for crossing points along the wall to be opened after thousands had gathered in protest. Crowds immediately climbed up upon the wall and started forcibly removing large sections of it. For the first time since 1961, Berliners from both sides are able to meet in emotional but jubilant scenes.
Christmas has been ruined for hundreds of British tourists after a 9.2 magnitude earthquake hit the Indian Ocean, sparking a catastrophic tsunami. According to reports, 141,000 houses have been destroyed and 230,000 people are dead, over 100 of which are feared to be British.
In a world where the former governor of California was the Terminator,
And we get commanders-in-chief that love tweeting a bit too much.
Kanye West has been president of the United States for just over a year now.
The Kardashian West family have actually broken the internet.
How on earth you're watching this, we can only speculate.
But new rumours have told us that the First Lady herself, Kim Kardashian, has hired 3 new interior decorators to redo the Oval Office.
How's she bedazzled it?
I think she's covering up pictures of her own face.
Well, she's such a...
I love it. But we mustn't forget his best policy so far.
Christmas on every single day of the year.
So, for the 318th time,